Oh, hello. Oh, hello, Lisa.
Well,
Had a
hello,
technical
Misha.
difficulty.
Technology, am I right?
It's always something, right?
It
Well,
is.
good morning, everyone. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. This is really exciting. I'm Maisha T. Hill. I'm the creator of Check Your Privilege and founder of the CYP Collective, and I'm excited to be here with my friend Lisa Flynn, comma MSc. Yeah, but you're a PhD candidate in cybersecurity and Agent AI. You're a pretty awesome human being. And I thought it'd be important to have you on for a conversation.
Well, I'm so looking forward to it. Yeah, that alphabet soup is I have a master's of science in information systems management, and I specialize in cybersecurity and AI. So, because I really wanted to, I understood that technology was making a big difference in terms of really the world's biggest problems. I used to work in human trafficking and saw what technology was doing in that space and how it was really making it easier for the few to control the many. And so in the
Hmm.
pandemic, I decided to go back to school and educate myself in these areas. And we're moving quickly. So I'm really excited to be having this conversation with you here today and with
Yeah,
your.
this is so exciting. So, for those of you, I want to tell a little personal story because I like to get personal because,
Yeah.
we're on Instagram and we have relationships. We're humans, right?
Yeah,
So, it's a really funny story how Lisa and I met. Lisa, you said slid into the DMs,
I did.
right? Of
I've
Check Your
never
Privilege.
done that before. Yeah.
Follower of the work, Red Hill Your Way Forward, and you were local, right, to Las Vegas at the time. Why don't you tell like what inspired you to slide into the DMs? Because a lot of folks are like slide into the DMs of what? What inspired that for you?
Right. Well, so I was a big fan of yours. And I felt like we were friends for a long time through the socials. I think you do such a good job at, really showing who you are and like the humanity comes through the technology. And so I always really admired that. And I saw the differences that you were making in people's lives and really on a large scale. So I read the book and was like, well, this is incredible. And, I used to actually show my husband, um, I'd show him your videos. I'm like, my friend Maisha has something to say to you. So we were friends in my head for a really long time before we were actually friends. And you said something in one of your posts, in one of your videos about wanting to find community in Las Vegas. And I was fairly new to Las Vegas at the time, but had found a really great community that I thought really resonated with your compassionate work. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I've never tried to slide into anyone's DMs before. I'm a little bit old for that. But I was like, I just felt this connection to you. And I thought that we really could be friends in real life, not just in my head. And I thought that we would have some good conversations. So I just one day did it and you responded right away. And kind of the rest is history.
Pretty much. It's so much history till at this point you are in another country, right?
Mhm.
And and when we talk about economic justice, you and your husband took your house off the market so that me and my family
Would have a safe place because I recognize that that is what you needed and that's what you were asking for. And we had it available. And it just seemed silly to waste a resource like that. Um, and, you know, I understand the plight that you, as a Black woman and single mom, face in America. And I had an open pathway and it was, I think, meant for you. So I'm really glad that we were able to make it work out.
it was great. So all this to say, if you feel it, slide into the DMs because you never know what magic you can co-create in a relationship to others, right? Um,
Exactly.
but on a serious note, Lisa, we wanted to have a series of conversations because TikTok was banned. Isn't that
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
And the same person who's going to be the savior of TikTok is the same person who created the problem right
Yeah.
before he left office. Um, what are your thoughts, sir? Do you want to give us a little rundown on Mr. Trump and how this all is playing out for us?
Yeah. So, he is a big fan of creating problems and then coming in to be the hero that then solves the problem. So he was against TikTok in his at the end of his last term and was going to save the people by banning it. And now, with his tech oligarchy that he's got rolling, he's solving the problem. He's going to come in and say that he saved the day and bring TikTok back to the people. Um, and I think he's already solved the problem. I think one of his tech bros has either bought it or is going to buy it or is going to, create a bridge from another platform to TikTok. And I think that he doesn't really care about the data privacy concerns or about the misinformation concerns or about the, basically the ability to let people from other countries create consumer fraud and and launch cyber attacks against individuals in America. These do not only happen to big businesses; it happens to all of us. And we saw the Russians heavily interfering in the 2016 election, and really, people say, "Well, what did they do? What did they interfere?" And it's we talk about the algorithms, right? And it's like, okay, let's get real about the algorithms. What algorithms are like a recipe, right? And
Mm.
so by siloing people to where they're in an echo chamber where they only hear what they believe, or where they're targeted to where their algorithm is different because they're a part of a bigger group that someone in control and with power wants to influence. So they limit what you see in your feed. So like my feed is different than your feed. My feed is much different than my husband's feed. And that has the ability to basically change opinions. It has the ability to brainwash us. If limited access to knowledge is very, very dangerous. So this is not, China's not the only one that we need to be concerned about. Russia, there's a documentary, couple different documentaries. If you look at Cambridge Analytica, and then you look at who was paying, to pull the strings. Russian actors, and I'm in a lot of big rooms now in terms of cybersecurity, and who the biggest threat actors are, and it's not a secret that propaganda, from Russia really changed the fabric of democracy in 2016. So fast
Wow.
forward now, yeah. So fast forward, we're 9 years later, and we all just became used to it, right? When the algorithms change, we get upset, but then we use social media to to run businesses, to stay in community with people. I mean, you talk a lot about people who are differently abled, and to not be able to, some people who can't leave the home or don't have any other community anywhere else. There's certainly a lot of really good things that happen on social media, but it's just a
Right.
really dangerous place. And there are no warning signs, right? I talk about it a lot. Like when we get into a car, we put our seatbelt on, we drive the speed limit or somewhere around it. We have insurance on our cars. There are speed limits. There are lines on the road. Like there are police out to monitor. So like that you're in a dangerous situation. We have to take driving lessons, and we have to have driver's licenses, and maintain those things. And the internet has proven to be a very unsafe place, not only for cyber attacks but for mental health. And no one there's no lessons required. There's no there's no rules or regulations really. And the tech bros can change, it's a self-regulated industry.
Yeah.
So they can change the rules and the terms and conditions whenever they want. And it's basically, you don't have the opportunity to negotiate your terms. It's their way or the highway. So do you want to be in this space? Yes. Well, then you're subject to these terms, right?
Well, that's being subject to the terms. That's really interesting because as you were talking, what came up to me was, and today might not be a good way to say it, propaganda
Yeah.
from a certain war and the way that they would use the radio to
Yeah.
spread propaganda, right?
Yeah.
So now social media has been a way to, like you were saying, control the masses, control
Right.
what we see. We all are seeing different information. So, for example, on my feed, like when this red note started trending, on my feed, because of Check Your Privilege, I saw people who were being privileged and wanted access to the app. And on other people's feed, they're like, but we're all getting along and we're learning so much. And it's just like really interesting how they get to make the terms and conditions of what we see, how we
Right.
see it, and how it impacts, like you were saying, our lives and our mental health.
Right.
And the thing about accessibility and those of us who are disabled or chronically ill, like social media is a place for us to form care webs, which is something that's not often talked about. Like social media is a place to find care, community, and connections. And it really just kind of, I just want to say this for those who are watching who had TikTok, it really sucks when the platform that gave your creators the way to really express themselves and not ban them for speech or hate or just it just feels like it was just stripped from so many people and it almost feels like a form of emotional abuse. But
Yeah.
it's after listening to you, it sounds like we're already being abused by
Yes.
this by these systems.
Yes.
Hmm.
And with AI on the scene, so there were troll farms, right? So you've heard the term troll farms. I mean, that's basically where there were warehouses of people making up stories, generating their own content that's just not even true. So when something like Red Note goes around, and people are sharing it and sharing whatever, you don't know, people aren't checking, and it's not easy to determine now, who originally started the story that you're posting and sharing, right? Or who started a story that influenced somebody else to write their own post. They might not even be a real person at all. So troll farms used to be people just sitting there flat making stuff up, and now with AI, now it's not even people. So that troll farm could only hold, let's say, 1,000 people, right? And they needed to be, and it worked like a business. So they were they got paid and they had office space and all of that stuff. Well, now we can have 1 million AI agents out there creating an unlimited amount of propaganda. That's exactly what it is, 24/7, and creating their own accounts and making them look like they're real people, and sometimes stealing the identity of other people, and that is how. And then the propaganda just like catches like wildfire because people a lot of times share before they even open up and read the whole story. So
Hmm.
that's exactly the problem. And it's a tangled web, right? The social media has no responsibility. So social media companies are treated like utility companies, like the cable that actually the cable that like runs into your home, right? And like delivers the TV or the streaming platforms or whatever as you want. So there was a law that basically protected the utility service providers, like the cable companies, saying you can't sue the cable company if you see something on TV that is detrimental or harming or whatever.
Oh
So
shit.
social media got the same rules and the same laws as the cable company, yet they're not a utility. They are creating content. They've created a space and they've told people, come here, it's safe. And there are no rules to say what institutes safe. And
But
there's no,
wait,
yeah,
sorry for cutting you off. We've talked
no,
about that. Did you say we can't sue them for seeing something that is detrimental to our mental health?
correct. So for the people that their children unalive themselves because of things that happened on social media, I think one of my children was brutally cyberbullied through Instagram, and there's no recourse to the platform. They don't have to do anything. So Zuckerberg's been on, and the rest of them have been on Capitol Hill so many times, and at the end of the day, there's no charges filed because Section 230 of the law allows them to operate like utility providers. They don't have any responsibility or accountability
And
for what
that's
happens on their platform.
and hearing that is why for our platform here at CY Check Your Privilege or the CYP Collective, it's important that we have agreements and how we show up and what does care mean and what's acceptable on our platform
Yeah,
and what's not.
right.
And
And then you monitor that. So
yeah,
you police that, in other
we
words.
actively are, unfortunately,
Yep.
I don't know if I want to use the word policing,
You
security.
monitor it.
We
You
monitor.
enforce,
That's
yeah,
so great.
you
Yes,
enforce the
because we want
rules.
to make sure that
Yeah,
one thing we want to make sure here is that people have their right to free speech. Because this is the other thing is that I'm not gonna if someone doesn't believe what I believe or whatever, we don't block them. We just like, oh, okay, that's your side of the internet. Thanks for being here,
right,
because it's and that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm feeling in my body. Is it's just like so many of us are free thinkers. They don't like that we're free thinkers. That we're exposing what reality is,
right,
exposing the truth, exposing, common humanity, being compassionate. And they're like, oh, this is too much. They got too much power.
right.
It's almost like that documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
right? I think everyone should go back and watch that. But Lisa, you had some takeaways for the folks today just around social media and AI and things that we can do to protect ourselves. I'd love to hear some of that.
Yeah. Before we get to that, I just want to make sure that your viewers and community understands what happened at Meta with Facebook too. Zuckerberg has said that he's not basically LGBTQ. The LGBTQ community does not have um, basically hate speech is allowed now. So there's
Yeah.
no protections for the LGBTQ community on Facebook. So in terms of enforcing the rules, people were banned before if they were breaking those rules. But now he said, I don't care. Say whatever you want to say. Do whatever you want to do. So
Yeah, he's turned into like, never mind, I don't even want to talk about that.
well, they're
Um
kissing the ring, right? The broligarchy, they're all kissing the ring.
Pretty much, and so I just want everyone to know there are things that I can't say that Lisa will say. So if you're watching this and you're like, she talks a lot of people who I talk to in white bodies have to say the things I can't say because, again, I'm on their technology and their apps, and I'm a Black woman, and I have to be protective of my mental health. So if you're watching this and you're like, she talks a lot, when's Maisha going to talk? When you see white bodies on here, they have to say the things that I can't say to protect myself and my livelihood. So just always think of that as you see these conversations play. And plus, we're humans having a conversation. So
Yeah.
we're sharing the mic as best as possible.
That's a great point, Maisha. I'm also no longer in America. So if I was still in Las Vegas, I might not be saying all the things that I'm saying even in my body because I'm still a female. But I certainly have, the ability to speak freely now. And yeah, we had talked about bringing some basically some things that we can do to protect ourselves on social media because. If you think about it, cybersecurity awareness and training and cybersecurity in practice, technologies and all of those things, those are afforded to large businesses and the government and organizations, but those are not afforded to you and me or to just anybody who's online. Security awareness training is a $15 billion industry right now, so it's definitely recognized as a massive problem, and that's not getting to the trenches. So if you are self-employed or not employed or work for small businesses, which over half of the country does, you don't have access to the protections that the people at the top have access to. And they talk about like building a wall when really what they're building is a series of arches for the people at the very top section, but the people at the bottom do not. So the key takeaway here is that we must protect ourselves. So there's a couple of different concepts that I want to talk about. One is IT mindfulness. So we need to stay in like the human body connection needs to happen. We need to understand that when we sit down and log in, we're in a dangerous space. And so the protections we need to take there, if you feel something, if you feel angry, if you feel a set like there's a sense of urgency placed on you, or if you feel flattered even, like there's a good chance somebody's trying to persuade or influence you. When you see posts that like really get your heart pounding, it's a really good idea to take a step back. Maybe do some breathing exercises. I'm a big fan of box breathing. I love the like essential oils, light a candle, do something to sort of get back into your full brain. So we have systems 1 thinking, which we think very quickly, and that's kind of like that's like our reptilian brain. And then we have systems 2 thinking, and that's when we slow down and we really process thought and we have access to our full brain. And when we're online, we're usually in systems 1 thinking. So there are a lot of exercises that you can do to get yourself out of that. I would suggest not spending more than a half an hour at a time scrolling, or in communities. Take even just a 5-minute break. And then get back to it. Stand up. You can do I like to put something and you transfer it from your left hand to your right hand. Is really good to kind of have that reconnection. We need to have our passwords. 80% of cyber attacks would not be happening if we had stronger passwords and if we had that 2-factor authentication. So really up your passwords. They should be passphrases. So think like a song lyric or a movie quote, and having special characters in there, like changing S's to dollar signs and A's to ats and things like that will really help with that. I would strongly suggest having a password manager, because the way that passwords are now, you have to have so many passwords and you're not supposed to use the same one across different, sites. And some of them are like, it has to be 22 characters long. And some are like, it has to be 8 characters long. And like our brains really can't keep up with that. So a password manager is really important. And then always have that multi-factor authentication. So right now, in terms of data, our phone numbers are more valuable than our social security numbers to hackers, because everybody uses their phone for multi-factor authentication. So the hacker can go in and trigger like a forgot my password thing. And if they have your phone number, they can basically use your phone number and hack into that as well, to then reset the password on your accounts to something that you don't know. So be careful with your phone number. You shouldn't put it on business cards anymore, only your email address. And then always have that multi-factor authentication. And you can use like Google Authenticator. There's a lot of different like systems that you can use for that now. But those things, I know that they seem annoying, but really 80% of cyber attacks wouldn't happen if we were just had better cyber hygiene in that capacity.
Wow. So IT mindfulness. If you feel energy in your body when reading a post, you might be being manipulated, or you might just have some discharge. Just walk away, 30 minutes, take a break, deep breathing, stretching. 2, I got change your password, maybe with a phrase. And 2-factor authorization.
Authentication.
Authentication, not
Authentication.
authorization. Yep. Thank you for
right.
that. Right. And then the third piece.
Or they call it MFA, multi-factor authentication. So you'll see both of those terms.
So let's say, for example, TikTok comes back tomorrow. We need to still set that up with that multi-factor authorization.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. And then the third piece was our telephone numbers are the most
valuable. They're
valuable.
the most valuable data set to hackers. So it's more valuable than your social security number. Because of the hacking that happens online and that multi-factor authentication. So be careful with doling out your phone number.
Oh my goodness. Wow, this is really great. I am going on Instagram, we got Facebook and YouTube. Lisa, would you be open to taking one question for from the audience around
totally
data or TikTok or anything? Does anyone have a question?
Yeah. Ask me anything. AMA.
While we're waiting for a question, because if people are on their thumbs, that could be hard.
Right. That could take a minute.
I was thinking, Lisa, I remember right before Trump left office, he's like, I'm going to ban TikTok. It's a national security threat. And they turned around and embedded this bill into a military package. And now Biden has signed it into law. I told people in Heal Your Way Forward, Joe Biden wasn't Captain Save-A-Ho. Nobody paid attention. You really thought that this man was going to save
No
us.
one man.
No one man is going to save us. But I'm just... And then he made this announcement. I just feel gaslit. I just want to say that publicly. I feel emotionally abused by the United States of America. And I've written about it in one of the books I've written, where I said that America's the narcissist. We're all codependents. And that's why we have all these problems, because we're all codependent versus interdependent. And I'm just curious. I mean, you're not in the country right now. As an American watching from the outside, do you feel abused? Like, do you feel like some sort of post-traumatic secondary abuse or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. And the system in America was set up to create that codependency, and the system was created to let some rise and to keep most down. So, and that really started back in the 50s, where they started really, really valuing specialization and not, what's called a polymath, or like the Renaissance man or woman, where they're good at a lot of things. So it took our, and this is where the whole push to go to college, and then everyone should go to college and all of that. That's what created the silos. right? And if somebody's so specialized in one area, their focus is there. They're not going, hey, what's going on like in your area, and what could that mean to my area? And so a big problem that we have right now are these silos and the inability for us to communicate between those silos so that we can solve problems collectively.
That just blew my mind because I'm gonna bring in my mom, she told me not to say her name on the internet anymore. She said
That's
to me
smart.
once,
Mom was
she's like,
right.
"Don't say my name, don't say where I work. You need to change your book." And I'm like, "Okay." Um, she was like reading all the books for Check Your Privilege and looking at what I'm talking about. She's like, "You are a mix between cultural anthropology, sociology, and psychology." And she's like, "I don't understand why they don't just combine them, to your point, collectively, because there's collective knowledge in all of those spaces." And now I know why. So thank you for that piece of information.
Yeah. But we can do something about it. We can be reaching out across silos and we can be working. I really love the Stanford collective impact model, where it basically says, listen, when we work together, we don't all have to do the same thing. Some people can be doing, it's like if we have a potluck, right? We don't all bring the main dish. Everybody does a little something else. Somebody even brings the plates and the napkins and all of that. So it's working. Collective impact models work together toward a shared goal. They agree to shared metrics, so they're measuring the work that they're doing, and they value the different stakeholders of that collective for what their individual strengths are, and they let the people who know what they're talking about talk when it's their turn to talk. And so I really like to see more of those types of efforts. I work in an area called cognitive security quite a bit, which is a response to this information warfare that we are all under. So the government knows this, and cybersecurity people know that all of this, the result of propaganda, and they know that untruths are spreading like wildfire on social media. They know how things go viral. They know all of that, and they know that is influencing and persuading people to. I mean, it has really changed the fabric of society, and government knows that. And there are a lot of really good people in government trying to do the right thing to fix that. And cognitive security is sort of this multidisciplinary field that combines psychology, linguistics, technology, AI, policy, neuroscience, to say, like, we have to stop the hacking of people's minds. And that's what hackers are after now, is hacking people's minds. And so that's we hear a lot about phishing, which are the emails that are tricking people. And the reason that phishing is so effective right now is because the hackers go online, they go onto social media, to these public forums where we've just given way too much information out over the years. I mean, I have stuff on Facebook from 15 years ago that, like, if I knew then what I know now, I would have never put it on Facebook. But Facebook makes it illegal for you to delete it. It's deleting something public in history. So they don't want you to actually scrub your accounts. And if you just delete your account, everything still stays online up to that point. You actually have to rewrite over it 3 times. And then if people still really wanted to get to it, they could, but you can't just delete. So another great documentary to watch is Terms and Conditions May Apply.
Okay, terms and conditions may apply. You just said something that is so interesting. You can't just delete. So I'm going to come back to your hand, a question Sparrow's hand. I got to copy it and paste it so I don't forget it. Basically, people are boycotting all Meta by just deleting the apps. And so, to your point, you can't just delete it. It doesn't work.
No, and like, you need to delete your profile, but even if you delete your profile, that doesn't work. So I actually wanted to create an app at one point that would allow people to download all their pictures and memories of Facebook, because that's what most people love Facebook for, right? And all your connections, that would allow you to download it, and then it would delete and rewrite over. So you just rewrite basically gibberish over your other posts. You have to rewrite 3 times, and you have to wait the 30-day cycle for basically the servers to update. And I found that I couldn't do that because it was illegal. It's illegal. Because they're saying that you posted to a public forum, so you became a part of basically history in this public forum, and you're not allowed to sort of rewrite history or remove yourself from it. So,
oh man,
chew on that a little bit. Yeah.
we're all fucked. Oh
So, and this is
my,
what I'm saying. So, and we're not going to have like, it's not just going to stop people like prohibiting Facebook or TikTok. And let's be fair, from a security perspective, TikTok, it is dangerous, just like Facebook's dangerous, just like X is dangerous, just like they're all dangerous, because this is where attackers go to get the information they need to attack. And now we're moving from phishing to vishing, which is voice phishing. And I think we should talk about this maybe on a different on another day, where it, like Maisha, you could pick up the phone and it would be me talking to you. It would be the same intonation, it would be my voice, it would be me, but it wouldn't really be me. And people can create that level of a voice clone now, or we went from deep fakes to cheap fakes, with just using 5 minutes of my voice. And you know how many YouTube videos there are. And like, I mean, I do a lot of public speaking. My voice is out there online quite a bit. So like anybody could do that, to where my husband wouldn't know the difference. You wouldn't know the difference. My kids wouldn't, they would think that they were talking to me. And so that's why it's important to have safe phrases within families, within work teams, within communities as well. So if you're ever like, Lisa, this doesn't sound like something that you would say, why don't you just hit me with our safe phrase? Or I have Marco Polo. So with my family, they know if I ask a particular question, that's basically me saying, give me the safe phrase.
wow, Lisa. So next week we'll talk about hacking.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about all of this is so educational. I've learned so much that I say this every time. Yeah, that's our class tomorrow with the kids to rewatch this video and take notes. But
Yes.
you've given so much value to all of us. I have 3 questions that I'm
Okay.
going to try to remember to ask you. One, the first one is, what do you think the real reason is for the TikTok ban?
So there is validity to it. So when TikTok first came into America, they were actually monitoring keystrokes, okay? Like keystrokes. So if you think about that, and we don't know if they were monitoring only in the app or if they monitored all keystrokes once you signed up for the app. So that's when you put passwords in and things like that. They monitor location. And now I'm not saying that it necessarily was nefarious. The way that apps were built, and I was a technology entrepreneur from 2005 to 2020, and people gathered information just because they could, and then they create, and so big data basically became like, it wasn't even useful. So there'd be like data lakes where companies would just dump data and pay to store it, even if they didn't know how they were going to use it right now. And then they're like, oh, I can package and sell the data in this way or that way or the other, whatever. So when TikTok first came out, it was definitely the most invasive app out there. Like monitoring keystrokes is pretty serious. So also interference by Russia and China is real. And they are using social media platforms to influence the minds and opinions of people in America. So that's true. So from a, pros and cons, right? Like, so as a user, there are people who make a living and like stay in community and those things. So, and once it got so big, people like, you can't take it away from them, right? And that's what we saw. That's what we saw happening now with all of the rallies and the, everything saying, don't kill TikTok. I don't remember any of the actual phrases, but like, you can't take TikTok away from us. So, by trying to limit it by saying, here's where it gets, this is where I'm like, by trying to solve that problem by saying it needs to be owned by an American company, it's like, okay, so that the American company can have control and influence over us, right? So the only way, I'm not a fan of prohibition. I'm a fan of educating ourselves and protecting ourselves in the space that we want to be in. I think that, we live in a technology driven society now, and we can't just like take the keys away and say, well, you can't have this anymore. Like that's going to be really, really detrimental to a lot of people, a lot of businesses. And, we can't just like have that whole side of the house burned down. Right. So, I don't know if I totally answered the question, but it was dangerous. I think it still is dangerous. I think all social media platforms are dangerous, but rather than taking them away, I think that there are a lot of different ways to make them safer. One would be actually holding the companies accountable for what happens on their playground, um, limiting the amount of data they can collect, limiting the data that they can store. Like there's a lot of things that could happen that would make them safer places. But what we're seeing from the Trump administration and his new, the tech bros that are like his left and right hand at this point, is they just got recess all day and cookies for lunch. Like there's not going to be more regulations. There's going to be less regulations. So it's interesting. Europe is doing better, much better.
Yeah.
Finland actually teaches kids in elementary school and middle school they teach critical thinking and how to evaluate news to determine if it's propaganda or if it's real news. I think it's interesting that Trump coined the term fake news, and he's like the purveyor of fake news, right? But he called, yeah.
Lisa, I'm in a shock, and I'm present, but it's so much that we're not only going to have a series, we're going to come back a couple more times. I need you to do a Q&A with all of us.
Yeah, I'd love to.
I think to go deeper with you and ask our real questions in real time, and maybe you can even teach us a couple of things even in a class.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be very important, because now a lot of the comments on Instagram, there's another comment that says we can't delete our stuff. Another comment is asking, can the apps rewrite and change history? Because you said something to that nature. And then there's another comment about, well, there's 3 of them here, Lisa, that we can take into next week's. Why didn't the government do anything then when they saw TikTok was a threat? Does Meta monitor keystrokes? These are such rich questions.
Yeah, I don't believe that Meta monitors keystrokes, but again, we're relying on them to self-report. And can they rewrite history? I mean, yeah, and that wouldn't be the first time that's happened in America. I mean, we didn't learn correct history when I'm almost 50 years old. The history that I learned in my classes is not the same history that's taught, that even our kids learned, but that's even not the same history that's taught about American politics in other countries. So, yeah, they can do, and from everything that we're seeing from the incoming administration is that the tech companies can kind of do whatever they want to do.
All right, so maybe we're all just really waking up. The Matrix was really, what's his name? Doctor. I can't think of his name. He always says The Matrix is actually a documentary that we're living in. It's real life.
I 100% agree with that. And I don't want to scare people.
Yes.
It's an opportunity to educate ourselves and to protect ourselves, because the white knight is not coming to save us. That's not happening. So, we got to pick ourselves up, and it's going to be the women who do it. And it's going to be led by the Black women. I honestly believe that. Because y'all do the work, and you understand community, and you were raised in a different America than I was raised in, and we really could learn a lot from people of the global majority.
And I think that's a brilliant time to interject here and say, it's not too late if you look at the clicker to join the Check Your Privilege Collective, where we get together. After I'm done with you, Lisa, we're going to go talk and have a compassionate conversation around today, Israel and Palestine and the ceasefire. But I think this was rich, and it was so much, and I appreciate you for saying that we have lived in a different America. I do want to say that there is a group. I'm not a part of any type of groups, as you all know. I'm just so in the free world. The 92%, and they are on strike. So a lot of Black women aren't engaging. So I want to throw that out there to the Black women who are not engaging, but also look for the ones such as myself and Keena Reed and Ashanti and Desiree B. Stevens. And there's so many of us out here doing this work. But Lisa is a member of our collective. And I'm not saying join the collective and go send Lisa a bunch of messages, because Lisa's busy. If you're going to ask Lisa for anything, please be mindful of Lisa's time. Lisa is very, very busy, and I'm grateful she gave us this time to just answer our questions and to leave us with this. Don't freak out. Don't be in fear. But to Gabrielle's comment, can we all just take a collective breath? Because this was just amazing. So I'm going to take a breath. And I want to end with this and first just say, Lisa, thank you so much for your time. And thank you so much for being here with all of us this morning as we're sitting with this new information and how to protect ourselves and keep going. But last night, the last post I saw on my TikTok was a Star Wars reference. And I want to give you the quote that came from it. Let me see if I can put it on the screen because this is so fancy. I love this fancy software.
It's pretty cool.
I might not be able to. Oh, maybe it won't work today. But it says that rebellions are built on hope. What else can we do but keep going? We are the tiny light in the darkest corner. And so just giving that reminder that the work thrives in relationships within and across racial difference, across class and across gender. And I want to say thank you, Lisa, for your time today and being with all of us and keeping us informed. And we'll talk to you more next week about big data.
I can't wait. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I think it's really important that we do this, and you're so great at getting the word out and taking care of your community. Thanks, Maisha.
No, thank you. And you all, I will see you all in the Co-Conspirators Collective and on these social media streets because I ain't going nowhere. I just, according to Lisa, I need to tighten up a little bit. Have a great, have a great rest of your day, you guys. Much love.